So I am going to cut out a few things to try to help us get back on time. I'd like to start with, by show of hands, who has Alexa in their home? Okay. Who has ever created an Alexa skill or an app for Alexa? Okay, only a few of you. So from the time that I developed my first Alexa skill years ago, I dreamed of deploying my Java code to the cloud through voice. So yes, I know I'm a geek. I like things like that. And to me, that's just like the ultimate level of cool, to be able to tell Alexa to deploy my code. So I recently made my dream a reality by creating a skill called DevOps Pal, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So quickly, just to tell you a little bit about myself, my name is Kesha Williams. I've been in IT for about 24 years, and I actually have the gray hair to prove it. The last 14 years, I've worked at a company called Chick-fil-A. Who's heard of Chick-fil-A? Everybody? Yeah. And I'm an Alexa champion, and I've published several popular skills. So I started my career with a top secret security clearance at the NSA. I then moved to work in the healthcare industry for McKesson, then Delta, then I did a small stint with the US Air Force, and that landed me at Chick-fil-A. So about maybe 11 years ago, I had a desire to just teach and share my knowledge, so I started teaching part-time for the University of California in their Java certification program. And that really led to me just doing live courses for several different companies, topics in AI, machine learning, computer vision, and of course, my first love, Java. So that's a little bit about me. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to talk about integrating Amazon Alexa and Jenkins so that we can further automate the process of deploying a Java project to the cloud. And so I have the word further in blue because Jenkins already does a great job of automating code deployment. But when you couple it with voice, it's just really, really amazing. So I have a demo to show you. Hopefully the sound will work. So this is the DevOps Pal skill. Yep, I don't hear sound. Oh, it's coming from my laptop. Oh, it's over here. Right here. Thank you. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so I will just talk through it. So down here, I have the Alexa device. I am speaking to Alexa, and I tell her to deploy my code. And then I have up here the Blue Ocean Jenkins pipeline page. And so it just shows the process going through the initialization phase, build, test, and deploy. And so really through voice, I was able to kick off this Jenkins pipeline, and I was able to watch the status in real time on this Blue Ocean activity page. So this is the architecture. So there are a lot of components that go into making this skill work. So the very first step is the Echo device. So the Echo device is simply a smart speaker that has a built-in microphone, and it connects to the Alexa voice service that runs in the cloud. And so the user is going to say, Alexa, open DevOps Pal and deploy my code. And Alexa responds with, your code is being deployed. Sounds simple enough. And so when the user says, Alexa, open DevOps Pal and deploy my code, that is streamed to the Alexa voice service that runs in the cloud. And I often describe the Alexa voice service as this brain that runs in the cloud. But really, it's a suite of services and APIs that use machine learning, natural language understanding, so on and so forth, to understand what a user is trying to do. So what is their intent? And so you can speak to this Alexa brain through an Echo device, through a connected car, really through any device that supports the Alexa voice service. So my intent is to deploy code. And so when that intent is sent to the Alexa voice service, the Alexa voice service determines the correct skill and it sends it to the skill DevOps PAL. And I created that skill using the Alexa Skills Kit. And so the Alexa Skills Kit is simply the SDK or software development kit that allows developers to create custom skills. And so this way you're able to teach Alexa how to answer a question that she didn't know how to answer before. So essentially you're making her smarter when you create a skill. So when we think about creating a skill, just like full stack web development, there's a front end portion to your skill and a back end portion. And so the front end portion of that skill you create in this Alexa Developer Portal, Alexa Developer Console. So you create an account, and here this is really where you set up the front end. So the voice user interface that maps intents to back end actions. So in this case, the back-end fulfillment logic for the DevOps PAL skill is a Lambda. And so a Lambda is just a chunk of code that runs in the cloud. I actually authored this Lambda in Python, and I'll show you snippets of it. But internally, that Lambda calls out to the Jenkins API to actually kick off the build. So I have Jenkins installed on an EC2 instance. That's nothing more than a virtual server. And so I have Jenkins installed, and I use that to build, test, and deploy my code. And so Jenkins works alongside several other tools, like Maven. That's a build tool for Java projects. There was also JUnit in that picture. Who has a photographic memory? Okay. So there was JUnit. And that's a testing framework for Java projects. And then the AWS CLI. So that's the command line interface that's running on the Jenkins server, and it essentially allows developers to connect to their AWS account. And then lastly, the Blue Ocean plugin. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to keep going. And at the very bottom, there was this image of GitHub. That's basically where I have the Java code stored. And that's the version control. And then there was a picture of Elastic Beanstalk with the Java API running on Beanstalk. And so Beanstalk is really just an orchestration service that allows developers to deploy code. So at the click of one button, it stands up Tomcat web server, load balances, VPCs, etc. And so my Java API is running there. And then there was Postman. That is what I used to test the API. That is crazy. Okay, so any questions about the architecture? So is mine showing up someplace else?
Probably. Are you using the Postman Newman, or are you using...
Say that again.
Are you using Newman on Postman, or are you doing it all manually from Postman?
Just all manually on Postman.
Because you can, if you hook that up to the Newman piece of Postman, then you can automate testing too.
I haven't heard of Newman. I'll have to check it out. Cool. Yep. Love learning about new things. Okay. All right, so imagine you see a slide with an Alexa device that says why voice. So why do we use voice to deploy our code to the cloud? And so voice is really changing the way that we interact with technology because it's simple, frictionless, and very streamlined. And for me, voice was just an easier way to control Jenkins and find out real-time status about my builds. And so in this case, voice is also just another entry point or access point for data. Okay. So why, imagine a slide that says why CI/CD. So if you're working with DevOps, you understand the need for continuous integration and continuous delivery, just to automate the software delivery pipeline in a reproducible way. And so from my experience, it just really gives software engineers the confidence that the code that they're pushing to production is not going to break something else, and it really provides shorter development life cycles. And so in the end, that produces happier clients and happier engineers. So I wanted to show you the process for creating a skill, setting up the pipeline, and then integrating the two. So I do have a quiz now, and whoever answers this quiz correctly, see me afterwards because I have a free Chick-fil-A sandwich for you. So, how did Alexa get her name? Who knows that answer? Yeah. Yes, how did Alexa get her name? No, that's not the right answer. Does anybody know? No, you can't Google it. Well, I really want to give away a Chick-fil-A sandwich, so somebody's going to have to see me afterwards. So Alexa got her name because she was named. Say that again? No. She was named after the ancient library of Alexandria. That's how she got her name. All right, awesome. Thank you. So this one is not a quiz, but there's a question. How does Alexa really work? So the Echo device is always listening. So when you think about that, it may creep you out, but the Echo device is always listening, and it's listening for the wake word. So the wake word right now can either be Alexa, Echo, computer, and I changed mine to computer for Star Trek, or Amazon. And so there's deep learning technology that's running on the device, listening for that specific wake word. And when it hears that wake word, it then records everything you say after that wake word, and it streams it to the Alexa voice service. And so that service then uses speech to text and natural language understanding to identify your intent. So what are you trying to do? And so in this case, my intent is to deploy code. And so the DevOps PAL, the message is sent to the DevOps PAL skill, and the skill acts accordingly. And then a response is sent back using text-to-speech synthesis so that whatever Alexa responds sounds natural. So to create a skill, you simply set up an account on the Alexa Developer Console, and there are a few things that you need to set up. So this is like setting up the front-end portion of your skill. And the first thing you do is give it an invocation name. So this is really the name for your app. In this case, it says DevOps PAL. And then the next step is to set up the intent or the action that a user may try to perform. So in this case, I named the intent deploy code intent, and there are several utterances. So this is what a user will say to actually invoke that intent. So for example, run Jenkins pipeline, run Jenkins job, deploy the code, deploy code, deploy. So anytime the Alexa voice service hears one of these intents, it's going to kick off the deploy code intent. So that's like the front end portion. So when the intent is determined, what's going to happen? So this is usually where you connect the front end to a back end. So this is the real coding piece. So in this case, I'm using an endpoint. And the endpoint here is a Lambda function. And so I put in the Lambda ARN. Now, not shown in this screenshot, there's also the HTTPS option. And so this is really cool. So this will allow you to connect an Alexa skill to a different backend that's not running on AWS. So if you have your own web service that you manage, maybe it's written in PHP or another language, you can connect Alexa to that. So here's just a snippet of code from the Alexa skill. And at the very bottom, I have the link on GitHub for the full code. But simply here, this code is calling out to the Jenkins API. And I'll just, for the sake of time, I'll skip over what it's doing. But just know it's calling the Jenkins build URL. It has authorization, basic authorization, and security set up in this call. And so the Jenkins build URL is going to look something like this. So you have the Jenkins URL. Then you have the keyword job. Then you have your job name. And then you have the keyword build. And that will kick off your build. So who's seen this screen before? So it's the Jenkins classic UI. I think it's very ugly. I don't like using it. And so who's heard of Blue Ocean? Blue Ocean is nice. It's really cool. And so I prefer using the Blue Ocean interface. So it's just a plugin, and it just rethinks the entire user experience for Jenkins, making it more visually intuitive. So this is the Blue Ocean version of the screen that we just saw. And it allows you to go back and forth between the two. So to create your pipeline, you click on New Pipeline, you connect it to your source code, in this case GitHub. I had to set up an access token, and then I went in and created different stages. So for the build stage, it may be hard for you to see, it basically clones the code, it prints a message to the screen, and then it runs the Maven clean command. For the build stage, it compiles the code. For the test stage, it runs unit tests. And the deploy stage, now this is the really fun stage. This is where it actually deploys the code to AWS. So the first step, I'm archiving the artifact, creating the WAR file, and then I just have several shell scripts that copy the artifact, the WAR file to S3, then it creates a new Beanstalk application version, and then it updates the Beanstalk environment. And so these are just the shell script commands. And essentially, after this process, my updated Java API is now available. It's really cool. And so the last thing I'm going to talk about is skill delivery. So you've created this Alexa skill. How do you put it into the hands of your customers? So there is something called Alexa for Business, and it's really cool. It's only available in the US, but it allows developers to create private skills, so skills that aren't available in the public skill store. And another thing that I really like about Alexa for Business, my skill doesn't have to go through the certification process, which is very time-consuming and oftentimes frustrating. So the DevOps Pal is a private skill, and it's really easy to set up a skill as a private skill. You just go through the normal process in the developer Alexa console, but then you select Alexa for Business. And so once you select that, your skill is available in the next few hours, but then you have to go in and manually add the organizations that you want to have access. And that's what I'm showing at the very bottom. So once you've enabled the skill for a specific organization, that organization then has to log into their Alexa for Business console, and that's what this is showing, and they have to enable the skill. So what's next for DevOps Pal? I think it would be really cool if I update it to prompt for the job name. And then also Alexa notification. So Alexa has a pretty new feature called notifications. So I can proactively send a notification when a job is finished or if it fails and provide more detail about it. And then real-time job status. So update the skill to answer direct questions, like tell me what's going on with job XYZ or tell me who broke the build. That would be really cool. And so let's see, recap. We talked about really integrating Alexa with Jenkins, CI/CD, the really cool Blue Ocean pipeline, the Alexa Skills Kit, the developer portal, and Alexa for Business. So what's next for you? If you want to learn more, I've partnered with Cloud Academy to create a course. It's called AWS Alexa for CI/CD. The link is at the very bottom, and it goes into much more detail than what I was able to cover today. So I think we are out of time, but I will be, oh, sorry, here? We can just leave it there. Okay. And I think we're out of time for questions, but I'll be around if you guys have any questions. Thank you for your patience today.